Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Wildcard Week Day 6 and we're looking at something a little bit different. Yet again, this is Creed issue number 2 from Lightning Comics and this is by Trent Kaniuga. I think it's Kaniuga. I'm going to go with that for today. Why are we looking at this? Well, it's an interesting comic that's been sitting in my random pile for years and years and years, probably since the late 90s, and I'm pretty surprised I still have it. And I came upon it again. I was like, I always kind of like this and the artwork in it, so I figured we'd take a quick look at it today. Also, on a past review this week, he was featured as a pinup and an ad in the Vortex comics, so clearly he was born of that bunch of kids who got into Image Comics and then decided to make their own comics as well. And that idea of Image Comics being independent and creator owned influenced them to do that. So really early on, this guy, Trent Kaniuga, owns the rights to this character, Creed, and created his own series and kind of modeled on that Image kind of way of doing things that they really spearheaded in the early 90s there. So enough about Image. We're going to look at the comic here. What I want to mention about Trent as well is that he started doing comics when he's like 13 or 14. Like I think he's 16 or 17 by the time he's doing this, but like his art is already killer and solid enough to at least be, a really good, well put together independent comic. Something that I don't hear mentioned a lot about in the 90s was the influence of graffiti artwork on comic books, and I definitely feel like Trent was looking at some of that stuff because in the way that he represents the figures and the dragons, the dragon here specifically, but the angular lines and the way he hatches, I definitely see an affinity with things that we would see from graffiti artists back in the day. And even coloring wise, there's a slight airbrush kind of feel to it that I think works with that graffiti aesthetic. So I may be wrong on that, but I think I'm onto something. Again, like the dragon's tail here, that's like, it's got a circular motion and there's foreshortening and stuff, but everything ends up being really angular. There's nothing really round in his comics, or rarely rounded, and I think it kind of works, and it's a cool aesthetic. So let's open it up, have a look. So we got the credits here. This fadey green is kind of hard to read just off on the side, a little bit annoying, but again, those early 90s comics, just trying lots of different stuff, the forebears, I guess, of computer coloring and the limits of it, and then coming back, and I gotta say, maybe compared to some of the garish stuff I see today, this ain't so bad. So Trent Kaniuga is the creator. He pencils, inks, and does the story. Jamie Hood does the colors, which I think are really good in here for 90s comics. And James Anderson does the letters. Brian Jameson is background and inks. Oh, so he's actually got someone helping him out already. This is very interesting. Matt Martin, I hadn't noticed this before, inks page 20. So Matt Martin being the guy who does the Vortex comic from a few reviews ago. Huh, interesting. So page 20, right? Well, let me just make sure I don't miss this. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19. So this next page, so the last page, all right. I should be able to remember that. So 20 pages in this comic, so he's cutting it short a bit from the regular mainstream kind of standard of 22 back then. I really like this image here. If you know a little bit about 90s history, and then from the 90s to the 60s, this is definitely a reference to that classic image of Jim Morrison, the singer of The Doors, right? In that pose, not wearing a shirt or anything, but of course he's substituted his character for Jim Morrison here. And I mentioned the 90s just because, how Trent would have probably found out about this is through the Doors movie that came out in the early 90s, and that was a very big success, starring Val Kilmer. So, who knows if the inspiration here for the shot came from Val Kilmer doing the shot or from the actual Jim Morrison one. Who knows? So right away, yeah, again, I think the artwork is great. Very much an angular kind of graffiti aesthetic all the way throughout. It's got, crazy 90s hair, does Creed. Always thought it was weird that I don't know if there was a connection or not. I don't think so, but the fact that, even though he's a teen, he kind of, in a way, having the name Creed resembles the singer of Creed, who would probably come out in around this time or maybe a few years later. So I don't know if that's just a weird connection I'm making. Probably. But I like the breakdown, the storytelling. You know, there's a bit of a McFarlane feel there. Like, this is what I mean. The rough kind of contouring and stuff is just such a graffiti kind of vibe there, where you do your artwork, you come back with the green, the spray paint, you do your lines, and you do a shot, circles. Definitely has an influence from that. Like, what a great shot here. We know he's probably influenced by all the regular image guys, McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, all these guys, but he's really pushing it forward with his own style. A little bit of kind of like a Ninja Turtles feel with some of it too, like some of the texturing. Just early on, being able to synthesize all of his influences into his own kind of style. You know, you can kind of see the influence, but I really think he's fully formed in the way that he draws here. And I mean, I've seen recently some stuff. He does YouTube videos, and I think he works for like video games and stuff. His artwork is just insane now. You know, nothing to do with this. This is, you know, as great as this is, I'm sure he would, you know, there's a teenagery kind of quality to it, I guess I would put it, right? With the subject matter too, and the considerations of a teen, and that makes total sense. You know, that's what a teen would write about, what a teen knows. I love this guy here, and the way it's just a faraway shot, but the way he draws this kind of horned frog face, this character I really enjoy. Good storytelling, good foreshortening. I feel like the art maybe gets muddled a little bit through the printing process sometimes. Like some of these, the black line, maybe not so much in this panel, but all throughout I feel like the black line is just slightly muddled or filtered. So I'm not quite sure what that is. Like, you know, maybe taking inspiration from McFarlane for some of this page design, but to go even further with these, you know, what seem to be raindrops, right, in a puddle or something, just great design work. Say what you will, but pulling off a shot of, you know, just someone with their dog sitting in one of these chairs. We all know these chairs, right? Like, it's a circular kind of slanted angle thing, and man, to just having to draw that, I need a lot of reference pictures. I mean, story-wise, again, I'm not that interested in it. I do like the stat here that he used twice. So he took this one, statted it, blew it up, you know, for this back panel, but then kind of threw some extra little speckle paint and color on top of it, which I think works really well. You've just saved yourself a few hours of work down here. So we got a little bit, again, of the teen considerations here, the ladies. We got the kind of, you know, sensuous shot here. And this lady turns out to have some crazy kind of witchblade esque kind of thing. Like, these wires are coming out of her, and just this demonic face. I always think that, like, maybe some of the Freddy Krueger movies had a lot to do with this kind of stuff in the 90s, right? Like, some of the powers that you would get, you would see in those Freddy movies kind of translating slowly into comic books, or some of the inspiration from that. There was some pretty crazy stuff Freddy could do back then. And yeah, now I'm just interested in that last page. Okay. So Mark Martin, the artist of Vortex, inked this last page here, and definitely, you know, it works really well with Trent Kaniuga's style. But you can see a little bit more of like that McFarlane look in it when he's doing his lines and his hatching here. You know, it's you know, if you don't know, you don't know. But if you do know, you can see a little bit of that McFarlane influence in the way this page looks as opposed to the other ones. It's subtle. It really blends in well with the other stuff, but it's there. And we got, I would call this a trencher moon. If you've ever seen the comic book Trencher, it seems to be like almost like this here is directly influenced from Trencher. Pretty cool. Maybe I'm the only one seeing it, but anything interesting here? The World Wide Web just got struck by lightning. So for new releases, okay, this is not going to excite me about a comic book company. Put some comic book imagery there if you want me to be interested in your company. Just thought this was interesting. This character here, definitely Rob Liefeld kind of influence on it, meets, you know, guy who draws Jim Ballant ladies. Or is that Jim Ballant? Is that possible? No, his name's not there. Yeah, Lightning Comics, small company, weren't there for a long time, but they put out some interesting stuff here and there. I've reviewed Bloodfire before. Not to say it's the best comic in the world, but occasionally I find Lightning comic stuff, and it's just kind of 90s fun, I guess, is most of their output. I have this other issue of this ninja comic. I forget what it's called, but it features art by John Cleary, who's another kind of McFarlane clone, at least in the beginning. So I'll be reviewing that at some point in the future, because I do have all of Satan 6, all of the second miniseries, and the dynamic duo stuff that he did for Image. So I can't wait to look at that stuff as well, in that kind of, as I said, McFarlane clone vibe review. So there you go, guys. That is my review of Creed number 2. If you are still watching and you are subscribed, thank you so much for sticking around and being loyal. Really appreciate it. We're on the road to 500 subscribers, where YouTube finally recognizes us as an actual channel. So please, if you're watching and you're not subscribed, please do so. It actually does help the channel, helps us grow, helps get us out there to other people who are into comic books just like we are. So thank you so much for watching, everybody out there, and have yourselves an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.